The Year to Their podcast, it's time to start the show. Be sure to hold on tight, here we go. Exploring all the different Disney destinations. Year to Their, it's time to start the fun.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Year to Their podcast, Walt Disney World, Word of the Week. I'm your host Phil Gramlich, and each and every week I will bring you a different Walt Disney World word. And then I will share some background, some tips, tricks, hints, information, all kinds of stuff about that word. And I already see myself getting into trouble with this one because this week's Walt Disney World Word of the Week is brought to you by the letter Z. Z for zoo. Yeah, I know. Everybody, let's all say it together. Animal Kingdom. Disney's Animal Kingdom is many things, but it's not a zoo. So yeah, Disney's Animal Kingdom is many, many things, but it is not actually a zoo. But clever tagline and advertising aside, guess what? It's kind of actually still a zoo. A zoo that is kind of packed within a phenomenal theme park, but a zoo nonetheless. Because Disney's Animal Kingdom is accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums and by the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. So basically, it means that they have met or have exceeded the standards in education, conservation, and research. The park officially opened on Earth Day, April 22nd, 1998, and the opening day dedication was read by Michael Eisner. Do you guys remember Michael Eisner? The guy that was there before Bob Iger. Everybody remember him? Okay. So on opening day, Michael Eisner read, "Welcome to a kingdom of animals, real, ancient, and imagined. A kingdom ruled by lions, dinosaurs, and dragons. A kingdom of balance, harmony, and survival. A kingdom we enter to share in the wonder, gaze at the beauty, thrill at the drama, and learn." So even though, as I said, the park didn't open till Earth Day of 1998, the animals started arriving to the park, to their habitats, well before that, so they would get used to their habitats, get used to their new home before the park was opened and before guests started filing in day after day. Actually, the first two animals that were brought into Disney's Animal Kingdom arrived in the summer of 1996. And they were two young giraffes named Miles and Zari. So there's your cool fun fact for the day. Although no, I'm gonna be giving you a lot more fun facts on this episode, but that's a good trivia question. The first two animals arrived in Animal Kingdom in 1996, 2 years before the park actually opened to guests. All right, moving on. Disney's Animal Kingdom is enormous, right? It's one of the biggest theme parks on the planet. Arguably, it's the biggest theme park on the planet, but there are some little details and issues that may make it not the biggest one on the planet. But let's say technically, it's the largest Disney theme park they've ever built. It is over 500 acres, and get this, the entire Magic Kingdom could fit into the Kilimanjaro Safari attraction alone. There are around 250 different species of animal that live inside Disney's Animal Kingdom, which brings the total animals that are there up well over 1,000. So you could probably guess that it takes an awful lot of food to keep all of these animals fed every day. And you'd be exactly correct. Over 2,000 pounds of food are fed to the animals each and every day. And how about these kind of gross but interesting numbers? Over 40,000 worms are eaten by these animals each and every week. And the Disney dietitians, animal dietitians, I guess, for the animals, order 80,000 crickets per month to be consumed in the parks. Of course, that's consumed by the animals, not by the guest. Although, listen, if that's your thing, I'm not here to judge. So what you're looking at is Disney supplies the animals with about 4 tons of food per day, which is about a 4.5 year supply for an average person. By the way, did anyone who's listening know that you ate over a ton of food per year? I mean, most of us, I guess. That blows my mind. I can't fathom that I would eat that much food in a year, but apparently that's true. So not only does Disney's Animal Kingdom care for the animals that you see out on stage, they also care for animals that are backstage that you'll never see. Quite often, the veterinarians at the park care for animals that are on loan by SeaWorld, other animals that are on loan by Busch Gardens, and they even care for local animals that are found injured and brought into the park for care. So there you go. You may not see a whole lot of, Floridian armadillos rolling around the park, but they are backstage in the animal areas. And hey, you may even find a Sasquatch or a swamp ape back there. That's what they call them in Florida. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they have them. I haven't been backstage at Animal Kingdom in a number of years. So, they could have a whole Sasquatch section back there. I don't know. Okay, so let me get to some pretty cool stats about the conservation efforts that have been made by Disney and its veterinarians and animal care team. Since the park opened in 1998, 9 white rhinos have been born in the park. So in one of my favorite stories about the white rhinos, in 2006, Disney brought 2 white rhinos to Uganda, where it's a country where white rhinos had been extinct for more than 30 years. So Disney introduced the 2 white rhinos, a male and a female, that were both born in Disney's Animal Kingdom. They introduced them into the wild in Uganda. Basically, they were hoping that these 2 white rhinos could start to reintroduce that population back into the country. Well, 5 years later, in 2011, a healthy 110-pound calf, a baby white rhino, was born. And this was the first white rhino that had been born in Uganda since 1982. Now, the rhinos were certainly not the first animal birth that ever happened at Disney's Animal Kingdom. The first animal that was ever born, that ever reproduced within the confines of Animal Kingdom, was a kudu. And that is a large African antelope. And I think I'm right here by saying that kudu was also the name of Paul Rudd's character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He was like a surf instructor somewhere in Hawaii, and he had moved from the mainland out there. And at one point, he and Jason Segel are sitting on the surfboards out in the ocean. And Paul Rudd's character, who, again, I believe his name is Kudu, says, "Oh, man, I stopped wearing a watch when I moved out here." And Jason Segel goes, "Oh, man, that's so cool." And then Paul Rudd says, "Yeah, I mean, my phone has a clock on it, so it's pretty much the same thing." It's a good movie. Anyway, moving on, back to Animal Kingdom. The park is home to the largest groups of Nile hippos, African elephants, and I believe also the Nile crocodiles in all of North America. I've mentioned this before on the show, but I kind of want to remind you, next time you're on Kilimanjaro safaris and you're passing over the Nile crocodiles, look down at the limbs of the Nile crocodiles. In order to prevent or at least limit fights and attacks by the crocodiles on each other, all of the crocodiles at Disney's Animal Kingdom are male. That's kind of like the opposite of all the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. But they do still sometimes fight and attack each other. And if you look at them, a lot of them are missing limbs. So even though there are no females in that enclosure, they still will fight. They still will go at each other. And a lot of limbs have been lost by the crocodiles on that attraction. And I mentioned about the African elephants. In January of 2017, Stella, a baby African elephant, well, obviously it was a baby, was born at Disney's Animal Kingdom. My family and I were there in January. We got to ride Kilimanjaro safaris a couple weeks after she was born. I took about 100 pictures of the poor animals, so I will post one of those pictures in the show notes, the best one that I have, so you get to kind of look at this. They're adorable. She's an adorable little animal. And how is this for some pretty cool elephant news? The Animal Kingdom scientists have been conducting in-depth studies on vocalizations of elephants since the park opened in 1998. So during that time, the scientists have actually noticed new flirting demonstrations between the male and female herds of elephants. And they've also discovered 2 new vocalizations in elephants that nobody had ever discovered before. Pretty cool. So again, when you hear that Disney's Animal Kingdom is just a theme park and quote unquote Nahtazu, you know that they are actually making groundbreaking discoveries in zoology. So that's really, really cool. Now, as far as the Disney's Animal Kingdom animal care and wellness team goes, they perform more than 600,000 wellness checks per year on the animals. You may have even seen some of those wellness checks if you take a trip out to Rafiki's Planet Watch and Conservation Station on the Wildlife Express that can be found in the Africa section of the theme park. And if you head back to Conservation Station, you may also see some other procedures that are being performed. The veterinarians have performed surgery on a tarantula. They placed an artificial eye in a fish, believe it or not. And they've even removed a golf ball from a snake that, amazingly enough, swallowed a golf ball on one of the Disney golf courses. And one of my favorite stats that I read in doing my research for the zoological side of Animal Kingdom is that technicians and veterinarians have analyzed more than 10,000 samples of, well, let's say animal waste since Disney's Animal Kingdom opened. Another thing that I find pretty fascinating is how they move the animals around Kilimanjaro safaris during the day. I mean, you've been to Central Florida. It gets super hot in May, June, July, August, September. It gets really, really hot there. I mean, Africa hot. And what do the animals do when they're in Africa? Well, they lie around. They don't do a whole lot of moving. So the way Disney kind of combats this is they hide the feeders for the animals all over the attraction. So there's feeders hidden in broken tree stumps, high up in the branches, on the ground behind logs that you can't see. This keeps the animals moving throughout the day on the attraction. It keeps them fed and it keeps guests happy because they see animals during their safari. Another thing that I love is that those animals don't sleep out there on the safari at night. They are actually trained to respond to cues, to sound cues that are played, like bells, drums, and whistles. And when they hear those noises, when they hear the individual noise for their species, basically, they return back to their habitat for the evening and to sleep. Even the bats on the Maharaja Jungle Trek, which scientists believe it was impossible to train them to respond to any kind of audio cue, they get a whistle, I think it's a dog whistle actually, at the end of the night. And that whistle they listen to, they respond to, and they go back to their habitat to eat and to sleep at the end of the evening. Now here's the last little tidbit I want to kind of share with you. When Disney built this park, they did not want to bring animals in from the wild to put into their theme park. Instead, they purchased animals from different zoos and different habitats around the world that were already born in captivity. So the lions that they ended up getting were actually originally from Oregon. Or did I say that correctly? Oregon. People, if you're from that state, please let me know how to say this, the name of your state. I never get it right. Anyway, that's where they came from. So they brought them to Central Florida, and they had a lot of difficulty adjusting to the heat. Again, they weren't from the African Serengeti or the Savannah. They were from, a state that has a pretty comfortable climate most of the year. So how did Disney fix this? Well, they installed cooling rocks and air conditioning into the safari habitat for the lions. So yes, believe it or not, while you are riding on the safari in your open air vehicle and you look up and you see the lions, if you do see them kind of stretched out up there on those rocks, they are actually having a much cooler morning, afternoon, or evening than you are while you're riding on the attraction. And that is going to do it for this week's Ear to There podcast, Walt Disney World Word of the Week. Thank you so much for listening to my Nahtazu episode. As I said, it's tough to come up with a Z word for Walt Disney World, and I have no idea what I'm going to do when 6 months rolls around. I guess I'll have to try to figure that one out. So again, thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I have one tiny favor to ask. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed to my podcast and then reviewed it and rated it on iTunes. To do that, head over to eartotheretravel.com/iTunes. I've left a really easy to follow tutorial over there that'll teach you exactly how to subscribe so you get these shows downloaded each and every week. They download automatically. You never have to go look for them or find them or type them in or anything like that. And it will also show you how to leave an honest rating and review. Listen, I'm not asking you to go on and tell me I'm the best show ever. Just any kind of rating and review, any kind of honest rating and review really helps for more people to get to find and listen to the show. So thank you so much in advance for doing that. I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. All right, just remember, there will be a new episode of the Ear to There podcast, Word of the Week, each and every Wednesday morning, as well as a new episode of the regular Ear to There podcast each and every Monday morning. So thank you again for listening. Until next time, have an amazing week. Bye-bye.